My first question is, if you don't have income for the next 12 months, can you survive? Because that is a reality, hard reality of whether coaching or any other business.
You became a coach to help people, but no one told you how to build the business behind it. Welcome to Coach as Entrepreneur, the show for coaches building real businesses with systems, strategy, and heart. Build the systems, serve your clients, and support your family. Today, we get to talk with Sam Chia, a seasoned leadership coach with over 35 years in corporate leadership, including VP and MD roles across Fortune 500s, government, and nonprofits, and brings deep insight from his ACCA, MBA, and Harvard training. Sam is also a ICF PCC coach and co-author of 2 books on coaching in Asia. Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting, David.
Today, in terms of your company and what's the style of coaching that you're doing these days?
Okay, my company I've set up is almost a decade, actually. Yeah. So I've been running this coaching business for more than 10 years. Yeah. Of course, prior to that, as you mentioned, I've spent about 35 years in corporates. In my role in the corporate, my last role, I was a regional VP looking after a region. So I'm basically running the business. And my early part of my career, I'm finance trained, so focusing more on the numbers. So it's been a journey for the last 10 years running a coach business.
What were you doing before you got into coaching, I guess almost a decade ago?
I was running a regional business and I travel almost like 60-70% of my time. Every time I came back to my office, I see my team queuing up to see me, just like going to the clinic. Basically, two broad issues. One, they have a problem to solve. And the second, they have a decision to make and they want my involvement. So I was trying to look at, is there a better way to work with my team so that they don't have to wait for me? And I came across coaching as one of the in-house program, leadership as coach, those kind of programs.
Right.
After learning that some of the techniques and skills, I basically changed my approach to work with my team instead of a lot of helping, telling, provide guidance. I kind of change and ask a lot of questions. And I find that that works very, very well because they become more aware that I'm going to ask many challenging questions when they see me. So they become more prepared. By the time they come to meet me, they already have certain ideas. The conversation helped them to reassure them that it's quite amazing, the coaching approach kind of open up my way of working, using the coaching approach actually.
So then, because you were doing so much traveling and because of the people at your home office, when you had to work with them, you had to figure out a better way to work with them. So that was actually your introduction into coaching. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was curious actually. I mean, it
Mhm.
looks simple, by just changing the style, but it was impactful. I
Mm.
see that the queue is shorter. Basically, they kind of solve their own problems before they come and see me. And the second is I find that they learn faster. So I become curious. And that's where I go deeper to understand coaching a little bit more, to attend some coaching programs, to learn more some of the psychology behind.
I see. And so then, as you were trying to learn how to help them and work with them better, just for your personal needs, you delve into more and more of coaching.
Yes.
So then, as you were doing that, what was that turning point where you decided, I think I really like coaching, I want to pursue this and leave, the corporate world? What was that situation there?
Well, I would say the transition, not something planned, that transition. I kind of love the coaching approach and it works well. I'm using it in my corporate world, but I never thought of moving out to run the coaching business at that point because I'm running well, things are moving well. But then life is not constant, things change, right? So even if you have a very nice organization, beautiful culture, then some acquisition happen, things change. The whole organization change, culture change, leadership
Right.
change, and that begins to trigger my thoughts that
Mhm.
hey, the corporate world, this is the kind of the things that you have to face. Is this something that I can be more in control? That's where of running a business, my own business.
So you moved into the idea of becoming a coach
Yeah.
willingly, knowing that you kind of have to also run your own business.
Yeah, I had that business background
Hmm.
to run a business. And of course, people always kind of ask me this question, why coaching? I can run many, my corporate business, I'm selling specialty chemicals. I can run
Right.
many different businesses.
Right.
Yeah. And that is the things that I always sit back and reflect in my whole corporate journey. The greatest satisfaction, what do I take away from my whole corporate life?
Hmm.
And I realized how much money I make for the organization is how many people I have a groom actually. That is the greatest satisfaction that I have. And that's the reason why when I move out, come naturally coaching become the
Yeah,
business that I've been running.
I see. So even though you could probably have been making more money running an organization or doing sales for another organization, you decided to jump into this coaching world because you love people and you love
Yes.
working with them and seeing them grow.
Yes, for someone who is so excited and passionate about coaching, the
Mhm.
first thought is, I can reach out more people. I can help more people. That's
Right.
very natural. Organization, I help all my leaders. The scope is very narrow. I think when I can reach out more people. So very simple thought. When we move out as a coach, but of course it's bigger than what we think. Move
Right.
out. Right.
But I think that's wonderful in that many of the coaches that I've met and talked with, they want to help people, right? They even though they could stay in their corporate
Mhm.
positions and honestly probably just comfortably make money, they decide to go into this whole coaching world. If you are by yourself as a solo business owner, you have to do everything, right? So from the marketing to sales to follow up and finance and everything, right?
Sometimes corporate we still bump into some unhappiness because of certain circumstances. So a lot of coaches just inclined to move out, to help more people. But the reality is, you still have to run the business to survive besides helping people.
Where do you think the disconnect is sometimes for some coaches where they want to coach, but they also need to build a business? Where do you
Mhm.
think the difficulty lies, especially for
Mhm.
those people who are aware of like yourself, like if I want to run
Mhm.
a business,
Right.
if I want to be able to make money while I help people, how do I do that?
Okay. We run a business in the corporate world. We have, like I say, a lot of resources.
Mm,
I have the whole team of the whole marketing sales people to do all the nitty gritty. And
right.
and also we have a big brand behind us. People are more willing to see us because of the brand. We call out someone. People are always willing to meet us because of the role we are multinationals, and people are very
Mm,
open to see you. And the reality when you're out on your own, all these functions, where the marketing, accounting, all this detail, you have to do it yourself. It kind of a bit struggle because you don't have the depth of the
right.
functional people who's doing the role. They can do that more effectively because you're totally in a different role.
Yeah.
That's one challenge that they have to handle multiple functions. And second, I guess is the biggest, I would say, disappointment to me in a sense is the branding, right? When you're out, you no longer have a brand behind. And
Mm,
it's, people are kind of cool compared
yeah.
when you have the position. People are more willing to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Well, that is a little bit of a surprise to embark on this journey. Yeah.
That is a really good insight, I think,
Yeah.
because unless you're doing a lot of reflection or if you've spent a lot of time with other people,
Yeah.
it's not something that you might recognize right off when you're going into coaching. That if
Yeah.
you're used to being part of a Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company or multinational that's well recognized, and then now you're working as a solo, people don't necessarily give you the same time and space as they did before.
Basically, it's a little bit of an
Mm.
identity crisis. In a sense.
Mm,
And in addition to the multitasking kind of roles that you
right.
have to sit on.
Right. The business development side of things, right? Because you need to now, as you said, you don't have the resources that you did before, which
Mhm.
was a marketing team, a sales team, a designer, all these other functions. You don't
Yeah.
have access to this. Now you have to think about that for yourself. How did you get into like figuring out those pieces for your business then at the beginning?
Well, a lot of time invested to relearn or pick up some of the skills in terms of selling a coaching business. It's very different from selling a product. You're selling a services too, especially again, you're selling a coaching business. People have little knowledge about that. So
Right.
it's a lot of relearn to understand the whole selling process in
Hmm.
this kind of services too. That's where I spend time learning how to create my own website, creating my own funnel. Though I enjoy the process, but that won't give you the dollar. You know,
Right.
I enjoy those learning. You have to invest a lot of time to build up that foundation infrastructure for the business. Actually.
Building up the brand and the assets that go along with that for your
Yeah.
coaching business.
Yes.
So, as you were starting out in your coaching journey, did you have any key mentors or learning experiences that helped shape the path that you are on now?
When I first started, when I left corporate, I did not jump directly purely on coaching. Kind of involved in a bit of human resource consulting,
Hmm.
where we do a bit of training, a bit of coaching. At that time, I'm still a very fresh coach in a sense. So for some projects, we do hire experienced coaches. So we do subcontract out to some of these experienced coaches. I learn together with them when they are the one running that coaching, where I'm the one, building a bit of the business. So I learned the coaching techniques, the coaching process. So
Hmm.
there are some pretty good coaches that I do model, I do
Yeah.
learn them too.
Would you say learning from others who have been in the shoes that you're trying to walk in, was that helpful for you then? Or
It's not that helpful because selling and running a coaching business is so different
Mhm.
from what we do. I mean, even in the corporate, we run a business, we sell a product, but the whole process is so different.
Mm,
We are selling something a little bit intangible in the sense that people
right,
don't recognize it. So
right.
they have to really have certain branding people before people buy you.
Mhm.
So it is extra effort that you need to build. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, how do you sell coaching as an easy way for businesses and leaders to understand, right? What are the KPIs for your leadership growth? How do you measure something like that? It is definitely more difficult.
Suddenly, when first starting out, just purely the coach. Of course, I do set my own KPI, the number of people I like to coach. But
Mhm.
in reality, when it's starting new, you need to do more than just coaching to reach out. So I do
Right.
run some leadership development programs, which I was trained to run some bit of training.
Mhm.
And that helps to, open up the door to
Right.
some HR and all, because training is much more tangible. People can see.
It's also a service that larger organizations understand and recognize.
Yeah.
It's like HR training. We know organizations have had that for so long. That's not
Mhm.
really a difficult thing to explain.
In fact, when I started coaching, it's so new. People hardly heard about coaching. So people will have budget for training, but they have no budget for coaching to reach
Right.
out, to share more about coaching. As we explain more, they kind of relate a little bit more.
Right.
Common very experienced to guide their people. So that is the understanding of coaching in the early years, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where like coaching comes from, right? Because it's athletes who are like, if you think about like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, all of these people had their own personal coaches, but for them to perform and to be the best at what they were doing, they needed to continually work and grow and develop those skills. And that's why you have a coach to help you to develop those skills. Can I ask you, as you have been coaching for the last decade plus, what have you found most rewarding about the work that you've been doing now?
One of the reasons why, compared with training and coaching, I kind of focus more on coaching is because of we can see the transformation, right?
Mhm.
People coming for training just 2 days, they are gone. You can't see the impact that you have been building. So in coaching, typically client will be within 6 to 12 months, and we can see
Mhm.
the transformation, and that is the satisfaction. You can see the change,
Mm.
taken extra courage to move on to whatever they want to do. They are more
Yeah.
confident. I always, most joyful part is after even the left coaching and come back, Sam, I just got my promotion that we discussed, last
Mhm.
year. That
Mhm.
is the satisfaction, the joy we had, the coach.
That's wonderful to be part of people's lives as they're developing and growing and then helping them to succeed. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Do you also work with people who have just been promoted into these managerial roles for the first time?
Yeah. It's quite common too to help in the transition of their dual roles.
Mhm.
Yes, we do.
So when people are being moved into these new roles for the first time, having to be a manager in an organization, what are some of the common problems that these people are facing? Because obviously they're smart because they're
Yeah.
being promoted, but they're often very intelligent in a specific subject, right? Very
Right.
technical subjects.
Yeah.
But now they have to work with people. And so, what are some of the common issues that you have seen coming up for these new managers and people taking on people management roles?
Well, it's a very common. I've seen a lot of this promotions, especially very good engineers, very good finance guy, and then put them into a managerial role. So from an individual contributor where they perform extremely well and
Hmm.
they promoted and they struggle, it's always start with the mindset. Uh,
Hmm.
because as the individual contributor, especially the technical role, uh, they are very structured. They have a process to follow. And when you start leading a team, you are dealing with a kind of people, human, uh, which is much more complex than the process and the system. That's where they got to show. And they begin to struggle with working with people, actually. So it's important. I always start with the mindset to
Uh-huh.
let them understand the switch. You no longer do things on your own. You have to
Hmm.
depend on others to
Hmm.
get things. So that's the first mindset you need to get them, you know, to switch. If not, it's faster I do it myself. I get it more effective, faster, but kill them again. But now, at the end,
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's that mindset that first thing I have to help them to switch.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because when you get somebody who's been doing a job for a long time, they're very good at their position in that job. Having somebody else come in, having them try to train or manage somebody who can't do that job.
Yeah. Helping
Hmm.
these people to grow while maintaining their results. So that struggle, the dynamic of struggle, but the
Right,
mindset is really about focusing on people. How fast you can get this person to do the job well. Yeah.
right. Do you have any examples or stories where you were working with somebody and you were trying to help them to do this shift,
Mhm.
but they just weren't getting it and they just kept butting in and
Uh-huh.
creating, as you said, like distrust within their teams?
It's common in the early stage because to do a switch, just like a big change, is
Hmm.
not easy.
Right.
You just overnight trust this person to do the job for me. You still
Hmm.
go through a process of building up a little bit. So some are a little bit more cautious, in terms of letting go. They take a
Hmm.
longer time to do that,
Right.
to build that trust, to build that relationship. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sometimes people fumble because they are not ready. Again, that backfired, and that create a little bit of a confidence issue. I
Hmm.
think hold back. So there's
Right.
always a struggle in the early stage of that dynamics, letting go and
I see.
having the people doing that. As a coach, is we are there to facilitate the support, give them that confidence. We are there to hold their hand a little bit in the early, at
Hmm.
least our group that those who are more willing to learn, who are more open, or whether you call it growth mindset. Because there are
Hmm.
leaders who are a little bit more cautious. There are some who are more willing to try things.
Hmm.
So those who are willing to try, who are willing to experiment with the support of a coach, I believe kind of 6 months, 3 to 6 months journey.
Okay. Yeah.
There'll be more confidence because during this process, we are not only equipped them with the mindset, of course, with a little bit of skill sets too.
Sure.
They learn best practices about empowerment. I think 3 to 6 months is something viable.
So what about the people who are less inclined to move quickly?
To be a leaders,
Right.
they begin to have that thoughts of we got to continue to work on the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
to build that confidence and help them to see the potential. As a leader, you can grow much wider in terms of the scope rather than as a technical contributors. In terms of the scope, might be a bit more limited. So it's up to that individual. If he want to grow in his career, I think he's better try.
Right. Have you ever worked with one leader who just wasn't willing to try?
There are some who try but couldn't work it.
Yeah.
It's again personal interest.
Right.
They enjoy a lot more on the technical part of the business. And as we discussed, we also help them to understand about themselves in terms of what is best fit for his own, whether his interest, his passion, the alignment. You find that is towards the technical route rather than the leadership.
I see. Does that take long to figure that out? Or can you do that relatively quickly?
It can be quick again. They create the
Sure.
awareness. I would say typically a 3 to 6 months, and it probably we meet at least once every 2 months. Easily a couple of sessions to create the awareness, to have the awareness.
So what so what I'm hearing is depending on the leader you're working with and how self-aware they are of who they are as a person and their willingness to change or to develop themselves, they could be very successful in that new role within 3 to 6 months while working with you, or maybe within that 3 to 6 months time they'll understand, actually I don't like doing this and I'd rather just go back to my old function.
Yeah.
That's correct?
Yes, in fact, even that 3 to 6 months, I would say, he do develop himself by having the awareness. He has better clarity on his own career direction.
Right.
Success, the leader.
Right.
As individual, I think they will still progress in the career. They have the clarity. This is something I'm going to work on.
Yeah.
Have that root of success on their own.
Yeah. So it's still successful for them ultimately. It's just not necessarily the way they were expecting.
Put into the role, actually.
Right.
Most of the time, they are just put into the role without
Right.
the deep consideration.
Because just the way you framed it is they're just put into that role without deep consideration. Is that a part of, do you think that's because of the organization that they just said, hey, this guy's been doing really well and let's just throw him into the deep end with management? Or is it the person who's like, oh, I need a change and I think management's my thing? What is it? How do they kind of just get promoted and then be put into this position?
Okay, good questions. The key things is really about career development, awareness about career development. I think most individual in the corporate settings, historically, they depend a lot on the companies helping them to shape their career. As a few years, they get promoted, in the new level, they get promoted.
Okay.
That kind of approach, they kind of a bit dependent on the organization. So that's why they sort of put into the various opportunities as they grow along, rather than because they don't have the awareness about themselves.
I see.
So I would say that, even especially in the new world, people need to understand their own career development, take a little bit more control development. What do I really want? Don't know what they don't know. So as a
Right.
coach, I think it's important too. While we help them to grow in their role, we also help them to understand a little bit about themselves in terms of their own career aspiration. What do they really want in their career?
I think that we are inundated by either media or the culture of the world of just the way things are, where we get into a job and it's go in, do the job, get promoted, go up the food chain, and then eventually become manager and then shoot for VP or senior VP or CEO, whatever your vision of your future is, but not necessarily thinking about or taking time to sit and reflect on this was where I was thinking about does this does this really fit me or not? Are we just running for whatever culture, society, media tells us is success, or are we really looking to become successful in a way that matches who we are?
Creating opportunity for them to learn and grow at the same time, but without that position in mind. Yeah, but still helping them to grow, to retain them too. So the whole dynamics have changed. Yeah. So again, as a coach, we have to help our people, our clients to move forward beside being just leaders, moving forward.
Mhm.
Also helping to have the awareness that moving forward in their life too, actually.
Thank you. That's really insightful and I think very important because sometimes I feel like if you're given a role, you kind of just say, okay, my job here is to
Mm.
make this person a better leader. It doesn't matter if maybe they don't want to be a better leader. That's my job.
Yeah. That comes back to coaches too. Like many people just wants to be a coach without thinking through is that a long-term career that I mean you want to help people. I mean there's still many ways to help people. Just sometimes people do not think deep enough. And they just say, oh, coaching, I can reach out. And they just jump out. And sometimes that's where it creates a little disappointment by taking that decision, without thinking, with preparations.
I think, and that's really important because I think we do see a lot of people getting into the coaching industry now more than, 5, 10 years ago, where they see coaching and they think, oh, this is a good way to make some money and this is a good way to help people without fully understanding the implications of you're starting a business. When it comes to building a business, in our previous conversations, you are running your own business as a solo coach currently, but you are
Mhm.
also working within a team or like a collaborative group, correct?
Yes. In fact, this is the business model I learned from a hard way. I
Hmm.
used to run, like I shared with you, running a consulting business. I'm a full-time 15 consultant, each for full-time consultant. Again, running a business with full-time employees is always a lot of balancing. You have heavy
Yeah.
responsibilities. You get sink into the overheads. So as I kind of learn in the process, I find that that should not be the right model for coaches. So I
Mm.
begin to say move out from that so-called the business model to be a solopreneur. But doesn't mean
Mhm.
that I run alone. I have a pool of very close associates who have different expertise where we work together for
Mhm.
larger projects and we
Right.
cross refer clients to one another.
Mm.
And that business model really works well for us actually. They
Right.
have their network,
Mhm.
that we do share in terms of the opportunities around. We are able to work. It's like a loose form of partnership.
Mhm.
Actually, you're running a hard business, Yeah. So it takes times to identify some of the people. I learned that some hard way too. I trust the wrong people that they kind of take your client away from you.
Yeah.
I've seen some of this reality, but again,
Mm.
I've been running business for a long time. It's
Sure.
really about integrity. They won't laugh. The client will come back at one point in time.
Right.
It's really about building the relationship, building the trust. Just
Mm.
you don't have to need a big pool. Just a few very close partners that you can trust and work together. Coaching business is a very, very unique. No matter how much they like you, they
Mm.
won't just select you to coach for the whole organization. They still
Mm.
want multiple coaches to work with the people to have different
Sure.
perspective. So we must have the abundant mindset that when we work with a client, that
Right.
ideally if the whole organization embrace coaching, you can
Mhm.
bring in another 10 of your close colleagues to work on the client. It's a win-win for everyone because the client will not engage you to work with all their 10 people
So you're talking like a coaching pool for like a larger organization where they want to bring coaching in for, yeah, multiple people at multiple levels, correct?
level. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Which is, I think, fairly common in larger organizations or multinationals. but not necessarily as common within smaller or medium-sized businesses. Would you say that's about correct?
The business, let's say smaller businesses, normally you get 1 or 2 assignments within the
Mhm.
key management. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I mean that's also like a very good business model, right? Because obviously you're not if for say the client was a large multinational and they had like 40 or 50 people they wanted to coach from C-suite to middle management and emerging leaders, there's no way you have enough time to coach all of those people. So bringing
Right.
in close friends to work together to do that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, you don't fit everybody. Like every leader is not going to want to work with you, and you probably don't want to work with every leader. And so having that pool gives you more diversity and flexibility in that process. And I think that's a really smart way to go about doing that. Find the right people, find a client that's larger that is looking for coaching, and then kind of go in together as a group.
When someone asks me for a proposal, I
Mhm.
normally decide myself, 2 of my associates.
Oh,
Let the
that's
let the
great.
time is, yeah. Because I still believe the fundamental of the coaching philosophy. I may not be the best person for he or her, you know.
Hmm.
So giving them a choice, I think is very important too.
Wow.
You increase the chance of successes.
What has been one of the most rewarding parts of running your own business?
I mentioned earlier, besides helping other people in the journey, in
Hmm.
terms of the time, I guess this is something that the flexibility, the
Mm.
freedom of time, I get to spend a bit more time. My family in the journey, if I find that it's important, I just block off those times. It's for my family. I don't coach those period of time. So giving that freedom of
Yeah.
doing what you love in the process. Yeah.
Hmm.
Of course, we'll talk about financial. It's still a rewarding kind of career. Of course, it's not as lucrative as your corporate leaders, but
Hmm.
it's good enough that you're doing something you enjoy, something you love.
Yeah.
Take care of the family too.
What's the gap? Is it like a 10% gap in difference, or is it like a 50% gap in difference in terms of what you were earning your last year of corporate and currently?
Okay. Good question. I think it's also individual.
Of course.
For me, about 50% from my corporate. It's a choice too that I do not build on the scaling of my business. I
Hmm.
just focus on one-on-one coaching,
Hmm.
my own time. Say, compared with corporate, certainly probably half of what I used to in the corporate. Yeah.
Wow.
Like say, if I really want to scale it, I believe I have the ability to do more.
Sure.
That means selling a little bit more on programs and some
Hmm.
online programs that don't take my time. A little bit more
Yeah.
group coaching,
Yeah.
which I choose not to do that. I enjoy
Mhm.
the flexibility of what I'm doing.
So you've really, I mean, you really took a pay cut
Uh,
and you really do what you're doing for the love of it and to help people. You're doing coaching because you love it. You're still able to successfully take care of your family, which is, I think, the biggest reward in what you're doing and the benefit of what you're doing, right?
when I first left corporate,
Hmm.
you're starting from zero base. From a high earner, you're
Yeah.
starting totally. That is the more difficult decision.
Right.
But of course, I mean, have the clarity of things I want to do.
Hmm.
I look for it in the sense that, yeah, decent finance, even you don't have income for the next 12 months, you won't
Yeah.
die of hunger. So
Of
I have
course.
that mindset. I will not sacrifice my family
Mm.
in terms of, well, but they have to worry about money and all those kind of things. I think my wife is pretty good in terms of
Yeah.
financial management.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
journey. You have to plan for the journey,
Of
yeah,
course.
and
Yeah.
prepare for it.
Hmm.
So yes, that transition wasn't difficult with the wife's support and all.
Yeah. Because as a business owner, when you're going into coaching, or any business, you might be the one in the business, but
Mhm.
the people in your lives are impacted by
Yeah.
that for good or for bad.
Right.
And I think that's something that more people really need to understand is like, if you want to be successful,
Mhm.
whatever success means to you, that also should entail the impact it has on your family,
Mm.
and how do you do that? So even if depending on where you live, or let's just say like your goal was to make $80,000 a year, how are you going to reach that doing the business development side of things and you're not reaching that goal to take care of your family? It's really a question of that coach's mentality of how you have to do this to build a business, and yes, you want to support people, but you
Mhm.
need to survive and support your family as
It's
well. And whatever that family looks like, it doesn't matter. You still need to provide for them. How do we help coaches to have a mindset, right,
Mhm.
for building a business? Like, where are the challenges in terms of the mindset, or what would be the advice you would give to someone starting out today?
Right. Yeah, I spoke to many young coaches. Yeah, they are very keen to do what I'm doing. Yeah.
Hmm.
But again, you got to prepare them. Yeah, running a business. First, put aside coaching first, right? Like running a
Right.
new business. You got to start from zero to run your own business. That is the mindset, first step.
Hmm.
So my first question is, if you don't have income for the next 12 months, can you survive? If you don't have a zero income, I give them 12 months to build that business, because that is a reality, hard reality of whether coaching or any other business. You got to prepare for them.
Yeah.
12 months without income.
Yeah.
So you must have that reserve for your families and all, so that
Hmm.
you don't have to worry about finances when you run the business. Because again, there's something I learned from my entrepreneur. When he
Hmm.
embarked on the business, he has sufficient funding. He doesn't
Hmm.
want the funding to constrain him from running
Hmm.
the business. So the same philosophy, I always advise people who want to move out to run the business, whether coaching or anything.
Yeah.
You have that funding to keep you survive for the next 12 months. If
Mm.
yes, of course, you need to have a plan to build your revenue fast enough for the 30 month onwards to
Yeah.
catch up.
Right.
But it's about business, actually, running
Yeah.
a business. It's like, so has a little bit more financial planning put in
Hmm.
place. And also give yourself a bit more time. Let's say you don't have that 12 months, you start now. And while
Yeah.
at the same time, you can prepare for the business that you
Right.
wanted to empower. Things
Hmm.
like building up your connection, your network, upskilling yourself during this period.
Yeah.
So you prepare, give yourselves the space. Don't just jump. Just
Right.
I see many people do that actually.
Hmm.
So it's really about preparing yourself to manage that business.
I think that's very good advice. Yeah. Prepare, think about what would you do if for the next 12 months you didn't make anything from it. Do you really need to jump into it full time, or can you do this on the side for a little bit until you've kind of figured out what's the business and who do you want to work with? What's your service and how are you going to continually deliver on that? Those are all things that are very important that they can spend time to actually think about and to develop.
Even I do advise some of them, because a lot of them when they first started, they coach friends, they coach, where
Hmm.
not a lot of financial exchange. They enjoy
Right.
the coaching part, but without a lot of financial. But when you go out, with real client, people are paying you money.
Hmm.
People want to see outcome. You have to upskill. It's no longer just coaching your friends, coaching your relatives,
Yeah.
and I say giving yourself the space. You can upskill, like what you say. You do it as a side hustle.
Hmm.
Coach some small group of people. Start small, make it
Yeah.
a business transaction first. As you
Right.
grow, then you're more ready. By the time you already quit your job, what you
Hmm.
want.
That's good. So the age of coaches, as you see it
Is
now from 10 years ago and now, do,
Mhm.
how, is that going up or is that going down?
Well, certainly it's going down. I mean, during my earlier years, when coaching, a lot of times, probably like 50s age gaps. A lot of them have
Hmm.
been many years in the corporate, where it's
Yeah.
like a second life after corporate, actually.
Hmm.
So earlier part,
Yeah.
after working 2-3 years in the corporate, they find that it's not a job that they want,
Yeah.
and they just. I mean, what the beauty about coaching is freedom. The time
Right.
freedom. You control your time.
Hmm.
That is something that the younger generation always look forward to,
Hmm.
right? But of course, if the balance in terms of the income and your
Hmm.
freedom.
Right.
Yeah. So I do see some of them, they jump too fast. Because you
Mm.
see, coaching, people always say that, okay, you have the skill, you can coach anyone. A young person can coach a very senior. That is the theory part, right?
Right.
But in reality, in the Asian culture, someone
Mhm.
very senior who is in the 50s, do they want to be coached by someone in the 30s? Maybe they ask, but the chances are they select you as a coach quite low compared
Mhm.
with an experienced corporate guy like me,
Right.
trying to compete maybe with the same client. The
Right.
chances are the client will choose me. I always ask my client, why you choose me? Hey,
Yeah.
it's all about my experience that,
Yeah.
of their journey.
I've also noticed that with certain coaches and leaders, they're looking for coaches who have a similar background as they do.
Yes.
So if they're a finance person, they want to work with a coach who has that finance background. If they're an operations person, they might want to have someone who's been in that, because even though coaching is less about the
Technically,
skills, it's really about people management. They still feel a little bit more comfortable because there's a similar shared background. As you're saying, with younger people jumping into it, I think they can still deliver value, right? But obviously, there's a difference in the type of client that wants to work with you,
yep.
because if they're looking for somebody who understands them and where they are in life, how well can you, as someone who's only had maybe a decade or less of experience, how well can you relate with them as a potential coach? And yeah, again, it's not anything to do with their ability as a coach, right? It's really
Yes,
about
yes.
the client who and what they're looking for.
Yeah. It's important too, like you just mentioned, sometimes, let's say a younger coach, they want to communicate with a more senior client.
Mm,
The thought process and also the language that they use, you may not be able to understand
mhm.
that, of course, even the experience of what they relate to their experience. You can't relate what they've gone through, actually.
Right.
So that does affect coaching too, actually, because it takes
Yeah.
you a longer time to understand your client.
That's a really good point. If you came out of working in a corporate where even if you were HR for 3 to 5 years, and then you were trying to work with, let's just say, a C-suite for a multinational Fortune 100, how well can you relate with the issues that they're dealing with on a regular basis?
The language, the challenge that they face,
Right.
they couldn't research.
So I think that is also a really important piece of it, is how well you as a coach relate with your clients to be able to help them through their difficult situations. Your experience does play into that.
Yeah, certainly, because especially you deal with a senior client, a more experienced client, they don't have the patience to explain all their problems to you.
Mhm. Right.
When they talk to us, somehow we are able to know because probably a lot of things we have gone through ourselves. We can't understand what they are trying to tell us.
Yeah.
So it does help in terms of the communication, the relationship, building the trust.
One last question, Sam, which has been coming up with some of the people that I've been speaking with, is do you have do you also work with a coach for your as a coach yourself? Do you have a coach you work with and talk with?
Oh yes, you
Yeah.
have a penal code. We get some ideas, bounce with the coaches and all.
Mhm.
It does helps, I think it's important to actually to have a
Yeah.
coach.
Yes. I wasn't thinking about that before, but as I've been doing these interviews and conversations, that's actually been coming up, especially with the ones who have been 10 years plus, is that it's very important to have another coach or a group of other people that you can talk with and who can be frank with you, going through a difficult time in your business. It's someone who can relate and understand your situation and be able to offer guidance or a second perspective on the situation you're going through. So I think that's a hugely useful tip for coaches who are starting out. Find somebody else who understands where you are or who's been there and who can help you navigate through working with difficult clients or figuring out the business aspect of things.
Yeah, we coach are human. We need help.
Well, Sam, thank you so much. I've had such a great time with you today, and there's so many wonderful nuggets of information and learning. I'm really appreciative of your time, and thank you so much.